Hey everyone, I am Jesse from the Janjo Zone. In this video, we will be making a Dark Necrofear Fiend Toolbox deck because I want that spice, so let's get started.
This is Janjo, and I'm building a deck, yeah!
So just quickly for the beginning of this video, if you haven't checked out my merch or my Patreon yet, definitely check that out in the description if you want to request a video for the channel or get some really sick Janjo merch. Also consider checking out my Discord, which also linked below, to become part of the Spice Rack today.
Want to support Janjo? Get your name in videos or request content for the channel? Then check out my Patreon for exclusive perks, content, and stretch goals.
Alright, so if you're into weekly GOAT format or just really any retro Yu-Gi-Oh content, then this is the perfect place. So definitely subscribe and hit that bell, so you want to get updated every week. So starting off with this deck, we're playing the 7 power cards, which usually you can kind of tell what kind of deck it is based off of which of these you're playing. And this is the kind of deck where you can play all of it. No issues with that. But when it comes to the monsters, you all voted in my poll for Dark Necrofear. Initially, I was going to add Hades, make it a bit more of a toolboxy Fiend deck, but, I'll leave Hades for another day. But Dark Necrofear is pretty busted. Okay, see, Dark Necrofear's effect reads that it can only be a special summon first and foremost by banishing 3 Fiend monsters in your graveyard. During the end phase, if it was in your graveyard because it was destroyed in your monster zone by an opponent's card and sent there this turn, you can target 1 monster they control and equip it to that target, which is basically when it's destroyed by anything battle effect by your opponent. It's a snatch steal. Downside being that you need Fiends in your graveyard and that your opponent has to have a monster. So let's say if they just, they destroy it with whatever card, Exiled Force or something, and they don't have a monster at the end of their turn, it's not going to be brought back. So there's a couple issues with it, but for the most part, it's really good because typically speaking, your opponent's going to have a monster on the field, and if not, then they're really going to have to be playing around it. And if we're playing 2, that's more oftentimes we can use a Dark Necrofear. So we want to have a lot of Fiend monsters, but we don't want to make it a Fiend-only deck. We're not going that crazy. But we are playing, starting off with 2 Archfiend Soldiers. This is kind of like our skilled Dark Magician of the deck. He's in there because of his high attack. He does have 200 less defense than skilled Dark, which is rather unfortunate, but it can still protect you from certain things that, let's say, a Slate Warrior can't do. And it wouldn't get banished if it get by a knock. So it's still pretty good, and also it's a Fiend type, so it's better than skilled Dark in that regard, because it works with Dark Necrofear. We are playing a couple other tribute monsters, though, because, well, why not? We're playing a Lesser Fiend, which is kind of cool. Banish any monster destroyed by battle with this card, so that's pretty dope. He's kind of like an instant Kaiku. You do have to tribute summon for him, but 2100 attack is okay. I don't think it's too bad. All right, the next tribute one we're playing, the only other one, is Mephisto. It's really only 2 tribute monsters since you can't tribute summon for Dark Necrofear. So, I like to have some utility. Again, this is more of a toolbox build. I did have a couple other builds in the works, but this is one I went with, I kind of liked. But with Mephisto, the Infernal General, he has 1800 attack, 17 defense, which is not too bad. It's kind of up there with like an Air Knight Parshath with a similar effect. He's basically the dark version of Air Knight, so why not? He's a Fiend, he works. In which he inflicts piercing damage, and when he inflicts battle damage to your opponent, they have to discard a random card. So instead of you drawing a card, they discard a card. So, it works out. It's not too bad. You could run like a Brain Control or Mind Control in this deck, or Soul Exchange. I'm not doing that, but, just options. Okay, next card we're playing 1 Kaiku, not a Fiend. We will be playing non-Fiends, but he still has a good effect. We still need a couple of bigger beaters. And he is a Dark, and he can't banish things, which is very anti-chaos, because you don't really want to deal with chaos decks, because they can banish your Fiends, they can banish your Dark Necrofear, and that's no good. But if they do end up banishing stuff, we are playing a Return from Different Dimensions. You can get back all your Fiends that you banish with Dark Necrofear, or ones that get banished otherwise. So, next we're playing Mystic Tomato. So you can get a lot of good things out. Nothing we're playing yet, but we could get out a Sangan if we wanted to. And there's a couple other cards. Because Tomato gets out Dark specifically, not Fiends. Unfortunately, there's not a Pyramid Turtle for this deck. But we are playing one Spirit Reaper because just getting him off with like a Tomato, you can have really great defensive capabilities. We're playing a Mystic Swordsman level 2 to get rid of those darn face down cards because we really don't want to deal with those. We're not playing a ton of high attacking monsters, so something like a Gravekeeper Spy could be annoying. When you have Dark Necrofear, something like a Cyber Jar could be annoying. Morphine Jar, not too much. But to deal with other face-down cards, we were playing Tsukiyomi and then Nobleman and Book of Moon. Great things. Tsukiyomi I initially didn't have, but it synergizes well enough with some of the other cards. You need to deal with a face-down monster or a monster that has low defense you can use with it. You can use it with Nobleman a cross-out or Mystic Swordsman. It's good synergy with the deck, so that's why I added it in. Next we're playing 2 Dark Mimic level 1s and 1 level 3. This works for this deck because it is a Fiend. And Dark Mimic level 3, like whatever, you draw a card anyway, you can get some advantage off of it. So draw power is good. I like draw power. What about you? Next we're playing a couple tech cards. I got New Doria, Destroy Battle, Destroy Monster. Another card you can get with Mystic Tomato. And then you can get Dark Gyroid out, which Dark Gyroid, it's not too bad either. Another Fiend, 1500 defense. Pretty good. If you summon, you can target one monster on the field, lose 800 attack. So you can make any of your opponent's monsters pretty low attack. But still, like generally, probably gonna use this for more of the stronger monsters. Cards like, I don't know, Blade Knight, maybe like a Berserker or something. But again, we are not running a ton of super powerful monsters in this deck, so it helps. It helps if you need to. This one is a much more of a tech card. This is Possessed Dark Soul, level 3. If you contribute him into control of all level 3 or lower monsters your opponent controls, which is not bad because you contribute him if you get him from a Tomato, and then you can attack with their monsters. You can tribute them. There's some things you can use with these. It's definitely the most tech card. This is more of like, you probably could side this card in and out if you really needed to. Yeah, I wanted to make this kind of more of like a toolbox variation, and I think there's enough toolboxy stuff to deal with things. And the way I was kind of building this deck is like, okay, what can bother this deck the most? For other cards, running card destruction for some draw power. You can also dump Fiends with it to set up Dark Necrofear. The Monster Reincarnation, if you need to get something back, if you need to get back like a Dark Necrofear or New Doria or whatever, and you can use this while also dumping Fiend cards. You can discard an Archfiend Soldier to put a Fiend in your graveyard to bring back like a Spirit Reaper or a Sangan, or it's good graveyard setup, and you can recur things in case you drop it with like card destruction. The rest are gonna be traps, so Call the Haunted, bring back cards, Ring Destruction, Mirror Force, Torrential, like the obvious stuff. If you need to bring things back, like if your Dark Necrofear is prematurely destroyed and you don't get its effect off, you use Call the Haunted to bring it back. And then Dust Tornado. You do have to keep in mind with Torrential Tribute though, because it does not trigger Necrofear's effect because it only works with your opponent's effects. So keep that in mind. Another reason why Call Haunted could work alongside that. Dust Tornado I'm adding just for more back row destruction because we don't want to deal with a lot of back row stuff. It's a pain in the butt. So just have that other option to deal with that. The last card, I kind of have trouble figuring it out. I ended up going with Solemn Judgment. This is definitely more of a filler card. I wanted something that just kind of took care of effects that kind of just ignored priority, basically. I thought of using Divine Wrath. I thought of just having just a generic card like Jar of Greed or Upstart Golem. But I went with Solemn Judgment because we can just stop whatever we need, whether it is Blackluster Soldier, use Summoning, or some other back row card that we just don't want to deal with, like a Book of Moon knock situation. A lot of ways to deal with things. Again, we have cards that can help us deal with other things, whether it's with our own knock, Return of Different Dimension, Dark Gyroid, or New Doria. You can crash into things with New Doria too. So there's a lot of good options for this. I consider doing a more chaos variant. I've considered doing like a more soul control variant or just like a pure beatdown one, but I wanted to really work with Dark Necrofear and make that work. And there's a lot of just useful Fiend cards with a lot of things. I want to show that off with this deck, just what all these Fiend cards can do. Because Dark is a very common attribute, whether it's like Gravekeepers or zombies or whatever. So I like to go this route with the Fiends, because you don't really see Fiend decks too often, and I'm sure I'll do more in the future. But I do think Dark Necrofear is really good, and you know, don't sleep on it, because honestly, like having a Fiend engine, even if you just run like Giant Germs and a Dark Necrofear, like that could be pretty decent in just general decks as its own tech. But let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about this deck, what you would want to change, what you would want to see for future weeks. And if you want to request one, look for my Patreon for further information, and I'm sure I'll post polls gauging interest in the weekly decks. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this, and until I see you all next time, have a wonderful day.
My grandpa's deck has no pathetic cards, Kaiba.